Every day, without realizing it, you're making a choice that decides your future. A choice between something that feels good right now and something that helps you later. Most people don't fail because they're unlucky or untalented. They fail because they repeatedly choose instant pleasure over long-term thinking. Instant pleasure is easy. It's comfortable. It doesn't ask for effort. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because it hides its cost in the future, where you don't feel it immediately. Long-term pain doesn't arrive with warnings. It arrives after years of small, easy decisions. This video is about understanding that hidden trade-off. Not motivation, not discipline quotes, just a clear explanation of how short-term comfort quietly turns into long-term suffering, and how simple choices shape your life more than talent ever will. If you've ever wondered why life feels harder later even though you avoided difficulty earlier, this video will make everything click. Why instant pleasure feels so good, and so right. Instant pleasure is anything that gives you happiness right now with almost zero effort. Scrolling your phone, junk food, binge watching, skipping work, just for today, procrastinating important tasks. These don't feel harmful in the moment. In fact, they feel completely justified. Your brain says, relax, you deserve this. The reason this feels so good is biological. The human brain is designed to chase comfort and avoid discomfort. When you choose instant pleasure, your brain releases feel-good chemicals that reduce stress and effort instantly. No waiting, no struggle, no uncertainty. That immediate reward makes the choice feel smart, not lazy. Now imagine someone with zero background knowledge listening to this. From their perspective, instant pleasure seems harmless because the cost is invisible. Nothing bad happens immediately. You eat the junk food, nothing breaks. You skip studying, life goes on. You delay the workout, your body doesn't collapse. So the brain concludes, this choice is safe. This is the trap. Instant pleasure hides its consequences in the future. It never asks for payment up front. And because humans are terrible at thinking long-term, we keep choosing what feels good now, without realizing what it's silently taking away later. How the brain is wired to choose now over later. To understand this topic fully, you need to understand one simple truth. The brain values the present more than the future. Survival evolution trained humans to prioritize immediate rewards because, thousands of years ago, tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. If food was available now, you ate it. Waiting could mean death. That wiring still exists today, but the environment has changed. Food is unlimited. Entertainment is endless. Comfort is everywhere. Yet the brain still reacts as if every pleasure might be the last chance. So when given a choice between a small reward now and a bigger reward later, the brain almost always chooses now. This is why saving money feels hard but spending feels easy. Why studying feels painful but scrolling feels natural. Long-term rewards require imagination and patience, while instant pleasure is tangible and guaranteed. The brain doesn't trust promises, it trusts sensations. So when someone says, I know this is bad, but I'll do it anyway, that's not stupidity. That's biology overpowering logic. And unless you consciously understand this mechanism, your life decisions will keep being driven by impulses instead of intention. The hidden contract behind every easy choice. Every time you choose instant pleasure, you're unknowingly signing a contract. The contract doesn't look dangerous because it's written in invisible ink. It says, enjoy now, pay later. And the payment isn't money, it's time, health, focus, confidence, and opportunity. Let's make this simple. Skip exercise today? The cost isn't today, it's months later when energy drops. Skip learning today? The cost isn't today, it's years later when growth stops. Choose comfort over effort repeatedly, and the future version of you inherits the bill. The dangerous part is that no single decision ruins your life. It's the repetition that does the damage. One junk meal doesn't destroy health. One day of laziness doesn't destroy discipline. But a lifestyle built on instant pleasure quietly builds long-term pain. This is why people feel stuck without knowing why. They didn't fail dramatically. They just chose what was easy too often. And easy choices always delay their consequences, until they're impossible to ignore. Why long-term pain feels so sudden, but isn't. When long-term pain finally shows up, people say, "This happened so suddenly." In reality, it didn't. It was building silently for years. The pain only appears sudden because the warning signs were subtle, boring, and easy to ignore. Think about burnout, obesity, financial stress, or regret. These don't arrive overnight. They grow slowly while life feels normal. You're functioning, surviving, managing, so you assume everything is fine. But beneath the surface, small daily choices are stacking in one direction. Instant pleasure numbs awareness. It keeps you distracted enough to avoid reflection. As long as you're entertained, you don't stop to ask uncomfortable questions like, where is my life heading? What am I sacrificing for comfort? And unanswered questions turn into future problems. Long-term pain isn't punishment, it's feedback. It's the delayed response of reality saying, these choices had consequences. And by the time the message becomes loud, changing direction feels much harder than it would have earlier.
How instant pleasure steals your ability to struggle. Struggle is not a flaw in life, it's a requirement for growth. Learning, building, improving, and mastering anything meaningful requires discomfort. But instant pleasure trains the brain to escape discomfort at the first sign of effort. When your brain gets used to easy rewards, effort starts feeling unnecessary, even threatening. Studying feels overwhelming, working feels exhausting, waiting feels intolerable, not because these things are harder than before, but because your tolerance for difficulty has dropped. This is why people say, I have potential, but I can't push myself. Potential isn't missing, resilience is. And resilience is built only when you regularly choose effort over ease. Instant pleasure doesn't relax you, it weakens you. Over time, avoiding struggle creates long-term pain in the form of self-doubt. You start questioning your own capability, not because you failed, but because you never tested yourself enough to trust your strength. The comfort trap that slowly shrinks your life. Comfort feels like safety, it feels smart, it feels deserved, but too much comfort doesn't protect your life, it shrinks it. When instant pleasure becomes your default response, your world slowly gets smaller. You avoid risks. You avoid effort. You avoid situations that might make you uncomfortable. At first, this feels like self-care. You cancel plans. You delay goals. You stay in familiar routines. Nothing feels wrong, but growth always lives slightly outside comfort. So when comfort becomes the priority, progress quietly stops. This is how people wake up years later feeling stuck. Same habits, same problems, same excuses. Not because life was unfair, but because they chose what felt good over what would make them better. Repeated comfort creates long-term stagnation. Instant pleasure protects you from short-term discomfort, but it robs you of long-term expansion. And a life that doesn't expand eventually starts feeling suffocating. Why discipline feels like pain at first. Discipline often gets misunderstood. People think disciplined people enjoy suffering. They don't. Discipline feels painful initially because it goes against the brain's instinct to avoid effort. When you choose long-term benefit over instant pleasure, your brain resists hard. That resistance is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're rewiring behavior. Every time you delay pleasure, finish work before scrolling, eat better instead of junk, practice instead of quitting, you're teaching your brain a new reward system. At first, there's no immediate payoff. That's why most people quit. But slowly, something changes. You start feeling pride, control, self-respect. These are deeper rewards, but they take time to register. Instant pleasure gives quick relief. Discipline builds quiet confidence. Long-term pain doesn't come from discipline. Short-term discomfort does. But discipline is pain that ends, while instant pleasure is pleasure that turns into pain later.